Welcome to Between Two Pastries, a not-so-typical nutrition podcast. Nicole and Annie are licensed and registered dietitians. Join them as they discuss hot nutrition topics, challenge popular beliefs, and have a blast doing it. Here are your hosts, Nicole and Annie.
Welcome to Between Two Pastries. This is Nicole.
Hey everyone, it's Annie.
Today we are talking about the infamous weight loss stupid drugs, Ozempic and Mounjaro.
Stupid.
Well, the thing is that I've been seeing such an increase of people using these, and I'm hearing and seeing some different things. And I just had somebody say, "Hey, you guys should really talk about this type of stuff." And I said, it's probably a good idea because I think a lot of people don't really realize, like, they're seeing all of the glam around it, and it's like you don't get like how these things are working in people, and also like long-term effects here. So we're going to talk about all that stuff today.
Well, and I mean, do we start by talking about Oprah? Do we start, what I think really bothers me, and this is maybe we're starting too soon on this, but like I'm seeing friends of mine who are of normal weight who are being given Ozempic by their providers. And it's like, what the actual fuck is happening? Literally. You have a normal it's not even that your BMI is overweight. You have a normal BMI. What are you doing?
Well, I mean, everybody's making money off of it. So,
that's true.
And if for some reason, I have no idea why insurance is like, I have a gal who I want to get on. We've been trying to work on. She is a perfect candidate for it, and she's getting kickback. So,
well, and that's what just pisses me off. Yeah. Let's keep fat people fat,
right,
and sick, and make sure that people,
right,
who are thin can really be thin.
Right. There's so many things around this that just really make us angry. And I had it happen to. Did you watch the Oprah thing?
No, I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Well,
you're better at that than I am.
Well, I mean, I did, but I was kind of like, the whole thing, whatever. And I feel like I'm wondering if so much of the increased hype is because of that program.
Well, it 100% is. I mean, we've had how many things like Ozempic in the last 20 years that take a buzz for a couple months and then they're over it, and no one's prescribing it. It's not FDA approved. Nothing's FDA approved here.
Right.
But it just kind of falls to the wayside. But now Oprah, Miss Weight Watchers, decides she's going to be Miss Ozempic, along with other stars too, right? Like, it's not just Oprah. There's Kelly Clarkson, and there's other people, which really pisses me off because Kelly Clarkson was like a staple body positivity.
Yeah.
I love myself for who I am. Well, fuck you and bullshit that you do, because now you're doing all the stuff that goes against all of that. And it's just, it's really frustrating, but everyone believes what Oprah says. And we've seen that. I mean, think about prior to, can't even collect myself. Oprah got Dr. Phil started.
Oh, true enough.
Dr. Phil has ruined people.
Yeah.
Ruined them with his piss poor advice. And that's what's frustrating, is people take what a talk show host says as like, yep, this is the greatest thing. Well, let's go back in her history and look at all of her, if you take one episode for every year that she's been on the air, and her body is different in every single episode, year to year. You could even go 6 months to 6 months. She is the biggest yo-yo dieter on the planet. So now she's doing this, and it's a quick fix,
Yeah. So I hear exactly what you're saying with that. I will say, though, because of the mechanism of it, because it does help people become more insulin sensitive, it reverses, in a sense, insulin resistance, so to speak, when there's a real biological crux, let's say, for something to be corrected, I think is actually great. The issue, though, is, are you on this forever? Correct. Are you learning different ways of eating while you're on this, because then when you're off of it, you're going to need to maintain certain ways of eating and moving.
Right.
We don't know, like, is your body
Did you
then,
deal with your problems yet
well,
that cause you to eat emotionally?
that's the whole
Deal with
thing. And,
those?
what will happen when you are off of it? Will your body somehow just be corrected in a sense? Like,
I don't know.
oh,
We don't know.
we don't know a lot of this yet. So
No past
some,
history of different meds.
right. And so I do know that some people who I have talked to or heard other people talking to said, I will be on this forever.
That makes me sad.
And it does make me sad
Oh, but
too.
it's the same people who I don't want to ever take meds. I don't want to be on meds. I don't want to do anything. But let me take my Ozempic pen around with me everywhere. Sorry. It's just one of those things that, and
Well, I
people hear
agree.
the bitterness in my voice.
Yeah.
It's really frustrating because it's not about fruits and vegetables. It's not about exercise. It's not about
Mm-mm.
health. Well, then yeah, go shoot up your Ozempic
Yeah.
in every hour and whatever you need to do every time you want to eat a piece of cake instead of actually being a healthy individual, which might mean an extra few pounds on you.
Well,
But
I understand. I understand. I do think this is, again, it's a complex thing. So
and it is appropriate for some people. I will 100%. I've had clients where I would be like, wow, this would actually work really well for you. And this would be something we can tandem. But again, these are people who have gone through rigorous therapy. They've learned about themselves, they
right,
know their trauma.
right.
Every single bariatric patient is going to start going down this. I mean, this is bariatric surgery, but
Oh,
oral. You know what I mean? Like
completely.
it's the same thing where we're not actually helping anyone,
Yeah. Well,
and
that's
it's just tough.
yeah, that's the whole thing. And the other issue is that, people are having weight loss that is happening very quickly.
Very quickly,
So
very.
there are a couple things. So there are a
I'll
few,
put my emotions aside now.
I know. There are a few side effects. I feel like and I could be wrong, but this is just what I have been hearing from people, is that Ozempic seems to have way more not great side effects
Yeah, I've heard that too from
than
people who are using it.
Mounjaro. Yeah. So that's my biggest concern, especially with Ozempic really messing with
Screws up your
digestive
gut.
system,
Yeah.
your gut in general.
Which the same people blamed food for, so
Right.
then we gain weight, so then
I
we just
know,
our
but
gut.
some of these things can really give like really negative long term,
Oh, huge. Yeah, your gut
like,
microbiome is screwed.
well, not only microbiome, but I mean, like, all kinds of things start to malfunction. So that's a really big issue that I really have. I have seen some astounding results with Manjaro, to be completely honest. My biggest concern with both of these two things, to Annie's point, of course, if we are not dealing with the maladaptive, coping mechanisms of utilizing food or not having a good relationship with our body,
Mhm.
this is not going to correct that. The second thing is that what I'm finding is, unfortunately, this almost eradicates appetite for people.
Correct.
And what I'm finding is that the people who I have worked with, I'm having a hard time getting them to eat what they need to eat.
Hmm.
And that is a problem because now we're getting into like severe undereating, which there
Yeah.
is a metabolic concern with that. There's also a massive loss of muscle mass on
Mhm.
top of some body fat. And this is a real issue. There's another gal who I actually stopped working with. This was, and again, I say this just because, she could be one of a million people, but she never wanted to do the work. She
Hmm.
just wanted a quick fix. It was, I need to do, and not only that, like, she wasn't even overweight. That's what's also really
Oh, I
interesting.
hate
Like, she
that.
wasn't even like, it was like she's completely normal, like, just completely normal, like, perfect. Like, somebody would look at her and be like, I wish I looked like that.
Right.
And she, I don't know why her physician said, yeah, go on Ozempic. But now, from what I have been understanding, she's incredibly weak.
Hmm.
She can barely work out. This person has a very rigorous job. So what I'm saying is that, some people who are listening to this would be like, oh, I wish I didn't have an appetite. And it's like, well, I get that too. I get where if you've got something screaming at you, what have you. This wasn't the case with that person, though. This person, this person just did not want to, she didn't want to deal with anything. She didn't want to deal with food. She didn't want to deal with herself. She just didn't want to deal with
It's
it.
hard work.
Just didn't want to deal with anything. And that's where I am. I don't want these kinds of things to attract those kinds of people and then have people just basically get hurt from it. Again, another thing to like self-harm when they don't even realize they're self-harming themselves.
Well, you bring up another really good point. So keep that idea of self-harm in the forefront because I want to go there.
Yeah.
But first, before I go there, we're talking about side effects, the gut and stuff like that. And people could probably look at us and be like, you argue every single diet and la 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 la. Well, because there are side effects. There are things that happen. There's not enough research. We know, if you come to me and say, I really want to follow a cardiac diet, I'm going to say, yeah, okay, cool. That's great. And you could even say, I'm going to try to lose weight following a cardiac diet. Okay. We know that this is something that works.
Yeah,
We
these are
know
possibilities. Yeah.
it's yes. And with something like this, again, whatever, approved or not approved, you're toying with the pancreas. So let's
Yes.
say you have type 2 diabetes, or you don't have diabetes, but maybe you're on your way, your A1C is going up. Food and yourself, you're toying with your pancreas,
Right.
right? Now we've just added another element. And before, we talk about pathophysiology, you're messing with your pancreas, which also means you're messing with your gallbladder, your liver,
Right.
your kidneys,
Yep.
your stomach. Like
Right.
it's not
Collectively, everything.
it's not just having an effect on your pancreas where we're able to, toy with our insulin and slow release of glucose or whatever the hell's going on, right? With toying with insulin and glucagon, you're literally having an effect on other things. You're going to start to see more possible stones.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine gallstones, kidney stones, kidney disease, because again, what's your renal function is going to start to deteriorate, I would think. Liver function. I mean, especially if you have to do it forever.
Yeah, and that's what we don't know, right? So people are saying like, "Oh, I'm never going to stop this kind of a thing." And it's like, well, I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, and hypoglycemia is not a good thing.
Hypoglycemia is definitely not a good
That's
thing.
really
So,
bad.
yeah, so it's interesting because again, this is one of the things where we don't know long-term effects for people.
Right. And
And
so the pathophysiology is it suppresses glucagon, right?
mhm.
Which glucagon will raise your blood sugar. So if it suppresses glucagon, we're going to make sure we have low blood sugars, hence why hypoglycemia becomes an issue, right?
Well, and hence why people now are never feeling hungry. See, we
Right.
we need these hormones to be elevated and we need them to come down. We need to have a natural progression of these things. Now, are we finding though that again, this is one thing that Oprah did talk about is the science behind obesity, that it's kind of that there are some real, things that are off. And some of these hormone productions are just simply off. This is something we know though.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, it is something that we know. But the thing is that, again, to your point, it does do this particular job. But then what happens? Does the body get so used to not producing certain things that now it can't anymore?
Correct. You
We
do.
don't know how is this going to look. And again, what I am hearing is that a lot of people now are going to be on a very, very low dose version of these things. But with any medication, we don't really know what long-term effects are.
Right. And I'm all for meds. I'm not anyone who's going to say don't take meds, don't
Agreed.
open it up. Totally. But when you see your body go from A to Z in like a really quick period of time, it's
Yeah.
probably not what's supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So back to you had talked about self-harm and stuff like that. With Ozempic, think about, in the DSM-5 we have it was recently added insulin abuse, right? So the eating disorder category where diabetics will abuse insulin
Mhm.
to ultimately lose weight.
Hmm.
That is also a form of self-harm, but
Hmm.
that's what kind of triggered the thought. But I mean,
Absolutely.
ultimately, it's the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing as a diabetic
Right.
fucking with their insulin
Right.
to see a result.
Right.
Like, to me, it screams eating disorder for
Yeah.
someone who is of normal weight.
Yeah. Well, especially for those people who are actually of normal weight.
Like, you just don't
Ugh.
yourself.
I agree.
Which is fine. I mean, whatever. I don't think people don't have to like themselves, but like you're that desperate.
Hmm.
It's that hard to just put a salad together and change your diet.
Well,
It is though. I mean, I say that I mean, I'm not being an asshole. I am being an asshole, but I'm not,
no,
I'm not trying to be an ass to people, but like, I know that stuff is hard, but deal with the problem. Go to the core.
mhm. Yeah. 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 It's really challenging. What I'm also curious about, because I don't know if this has really been looked at. However, when you do see individuals who are in particular who are insulin resistant, they just have a particular shape.
Correct.
They hold weight differently.
Yeah. And we know that.
And
Yeah.
my point too is that an
That's been
individual
proven.
who does not have those tendencies, right? That their body is not genetically programmed to distribute weight in certain areas. I don't think this is going to work the same way.
It shouldn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, you
It'll
have
be interesting. I
you have
mean,
you have somebody who's say, and I could be completely wrong. It's just I have not seen this individual. So that's why I'm kind of like, huh. And again,
correct.
not like I've seen so many, but I'm just saying, like, this is an interesting thing to me because like I have an individual who is or a couple of my clients really who are say more of like a pear shape because of the fact that that kind of body weight distribution is not insulin dependent.
Correct.
That I don't know if this med works the same way.
They're going to lose weight and probably keep their pear shape, and they're going to be hypoglycemic and at the hospital every other week.
Yeah, like
That would be what I would assume.
I'm just not sure. So
Right.
I'm also wondering, are people getting somehow, if we're just going to start doling this out, like a corner drug, you know what I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
say?
That's what it
Like,
feels like.
are people getting sort of tested? Like what makes this person a good candidate? Like, how do we
They ask
know
for it.
that information besides
Right.
people just getting what they ask for because everybody's making a buck off of it,
Right.
And right now, no one's dying, so it must be okay,
Fine.
whatever. You know what I mean? But if it doesn't make sense for certain people, it doesn't make sense,
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, those are just sort of my questions.
Yeah. Well, and I think I'll really flip my lid when it starts being given to kids.
Well, and
Um,
that has been the thing. And Annie, you
yep.
just brought up before we went live here that the one did get approved for kids.
Mm-hmm. Wegovy.
Yeah,
That's really tough because I can think of so many kids from my youth, current kids, students, um, over the years, just working at a health club, so you watch people grow up. I did that for 20 years.
right,
They were big kids, and then they're really thin adults
right, right.
because that's just how you
It's
grow.
just how it is.
And it really makes me feel sad that we're doing this with our kids instead of letting them go play outside.
I know.
Play with them outside. It's not a
Right,
dog. You don't just send your kid outside.
right.
Parents, siblings have to be out there with them and play
Hmm.
with them
Hmm.
and enjoy and tackle that. Introduce fruits and veggies. But guess what? Parents don't want to.
Hmm.
Parents don't want to engage with their kids. They don't want to eat fruits and vegetables themselves. So we'll just send the kid over to the hospital and do the weight loss program and put them on some drugs, and I'll get my Ozempic pen, and we're all just one big happy family.
Yeah.
Or we can keep eating Doritos and cake and not exercising, but we appear thin. Cool.
Hmm.
How's your heart? How's
Hmm.
your kidneys? how's your gut? How's your brain? That just doesn't seem appealing. And it's
Yeah.
all for appearances. All of it.
Well, and yeah, a lot of it is. Now, again, going back to the Oprah show, they did show a kid, and I think that they went on Ozempic because I
Not
think
true.
she was, well, I think because it wasn't, but I think she was a teen, and I don't remember the details around that, and I apologize for not learning the details around it. But she had, a gene that just was not functioning
Yep.
appropriately.
Yep.
And she went on this and, you know,
Lost weight.
yes, did the whole thing. But again,
Mhm.
she was, whatever she is, 14,
16,
15,
17 is
16. Yeah.
different than 8.
Well, and that's true too, because what have you. But at least they were able to identify that she really did have that mechanism. She was always hungry, like, even the parents were just like, she could eat all the time.
Mhm.
And we knew like something just didn't seem right. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
yeah, I get that. There's
Appropriate.
a
So
thing. It was appropriate. But I am concerned about her though. Does that mean this is corrected in her, or does this mean that now,
like the
and poor
Band-Aid.
sweet 16 years old, she's got to be on something for 80 years? Like,
Right.
what does that actually mean for that
Or is it going to cause her to
sweet
need
thing?
dialysis in 20 years?
Well, that's just it. Like, we don't know these things, and it's great that there are answers to, things we haven't had answers to. But at the same time, it's, you still care about longevity and quality of life for people, I guess. I don't
Right.
know.
Well, exactly. And that's what's so hard with it with the kids. And I worry too about, someone who just has a baby and they're 40 pounds, quote unquote, overweight because, having a baby, and now they start doing this. And what about lactation?
Right.
What about, I mean, that's really, really yucky.
Yes.
You have to be careful. And one of the biggest side effects is pregnancy.
Right.
And people don't understand how that works, but guess what? It works because when you toy with insulin,
Yeah.
you
Well, and
get
that's just,
fertile.
yeah. Well, in part of infertility is a lot of times having higher insulin levels.
Right,
And so, you become more fertile, just naturally because your insulin levels are operating, or
right,
within a normal range, not creating the suppression of certain, hormones. So,
right,
yeah, it's an interesting thing.
right. And it's just whatever. People want to be pregnant. That's not the point. But I mean, I hope people make good decisions
I
that
do
aren't
too.
beyond what I look like in front of the mirror or
Well,
two measurements.
what I would like to do is a few of the individuals that I'm currently working with, I would actually like to have them come on the pod next year
Yeah,
at the time that
yeah.
they stopped medication or, went
Continue
on
it
some
or
sort of,
cut
yeah,
it
who
back
knows? We're
or
going to find out. Right. And then let's talk about, okay, year one, where are
hmm
we at? I mean, I think it would be good to go like year 5, year
hmm
8, like, what
Yeah,
are we
prove me
learning?
wrong.
What is happening? What are you experiencing? And so yeah, I think that would be more interesting and more valid, because right now we're just like hypothetically, we have no idea what's going to
No idea.
happen. You know, we know how things can, what can happen, but we don't really know, what's going to
Right,
happen. So
right.
yeah, it's interesting stuff. But I
hmm
do, I do think, and again, this is the missing piece. People are just going in and getting a med. It's the same thing. Oh, you're hurting somewhere. Let's give you a med. Let's numb it all out. Let's just make it
Yeah.
all falsely go away without still dealing with the core sometimes of some of
Right.
this stuff for people. And it
Mhm.
would be nice to see these meds maybe coupled with some,
Therapy.
yeah. And also just tools and,
Yep.
you
A
know,
dietitian.
education of like learning like how the body works and why,
hmm
sometimes we do need to eat in a particular way, at least short term, to balance things
Right.
out if that is the problem or
Right.
whatever.
What
So
appetite is, what
what,
hunger
right,
is.
right. Learning
These
just
are
that
normal things.
minute detail, right? Of
Mhm.
like, you know, I know. So that I feel would be just more resourceful for people in general.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So
100%.
yeah. Anywho. All right. Well, that's our 2, 3, 4 cents worth of this subject.
Yeah, and I know people are probably, oh, it's just moral opinion. It is moral opinion, but like just
Well, some of it is also pretty
yeah,
factual of like what we're talking
factual,
about.
yes.
Like, this is
Yes.
what's happening. Some people are actually getting really hurt by this.
Well, yeah,
It's
and that's
also
why
sad to see that we have to go to these extreme levels for,
right.
I mean, I get it. Like, if somebody is really sick, they're really sick. If somebody has cancer and they want to go through chemo, they want to go through chemo. Like, I understand,
Yeah,
like
there's things, right.
there are times and places. I think the whole thing of, I think what gets Annie and I's goat is, as we were just saying, like, you might as well just be able to pick this up at Walgreens and anybody
Correct.
can just take it,
That's how
because
it feels. Yeah.
that is how it's being glamorized. It's being,
That's my problem.
it's the way that it's being solicited is,
Right.
it's not in very good integrity at all. And I think that that is why we're a little bit like, ooh.
It's going to
So,
cause more harm than good because
yeah.
of the
Right,
So,
right. In these different levels. Yeah. So anyway,
yep.
as always, thanks for listening, everybody. And again, love to hear your feedback.
Yep. Bye.
Have questions you want to hear discussed on the show? Find us on Facebook or visit between2pastries.com and drop us a line. Want to support the show? Find us on Patreon for exclusive content. If you love the show, find us on iTunes or your favorite podcast platform. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a review.